desperate to win today, but played like they were desperate to win, and it showed up mostly in that last scramble for the ball that Drake got his hands on. How would you characterize the desperation that they played with?
Well, this is apart from supposedly the comments that they make. I think you should play like that every day. Every possession, whether it's shoot around, practice, game. That's when we talk. We always talk about it as a team. It's not a sense of urgency, but it's a sense of emergency to make plays on both ends of the floor, whether it's at the beginning of the game or at the end. I did, after the game, briefly talk to the team and told them I hope they have a clear picture of how little things make big things happen. You talk about that extra effort. It's not going to be on the stat sheet, but Drake got a deflection when it looked like they could have gotten an offensive player behind him. Vin getting a deflection, disrupting their play. Seth and Drake diving on the floor, taking time off the clock, and them having to go the length of the floor to be able to try to score at the end of the game. The rebounds with two hands, strong. Even though we didn't make the free throws, we were able to get stops and get the get fouled and get to the free throw line. Just those, the execution of the out of bounds play where we wanted to get the ball to Seth and RJ because they're our two best free throw shooters, and we were able to execute there. Those are things that are not going to show up, in the highlight reel, but those are little things that made big things happen, and I told them how proud I was of them.
In the last, kind of off week of not having a game, outside of the, X's and O's and things that you guys worked on, what was the guys' approach to practice from your point of view? Like, how did they approach having that, gap between games?
I thought their approach was good. Not having a midweek game gave us for at least half of the week to be able to practice on us as opposed to practicing in preparation for a team. And so, I've talked to you guys at great length about us doing the little things that make big things happen, and the only way you can change that is to constantly drill it and create good habits. And I feel like not having that midweek game and being able to have practice as opposed to preparation for a game helped us develop some good habits that really played a huge part in us winning today.
Hubert, the way you guys were able to play through the post at the start of the game, Vin got going, it seemed like that was at least an emphasis of what you wanted to do. And some of the guys said that they felt like, that was something you learned from the first game against Pitt, was that could be there. Like, how did y'all go about wanting to do that, and how did you think you accomplished that with the early buckets?
Yeah, I thought we did a really good job at the beginning of the game getting points in the paint through Vin. The game at Pitt in the second half, they switched everything, and we just couldn't find consistently good shots in the second half. And so going into this game, if they were going to play that defense, that means their guards are going to be on our bigs. And so when teams switch, you have to look for an advantage, whether it's in the post or the perimeter. We felt like we had an advantage in the post, and we wanted to take advantage of that, and we were able to do that at the beginning of the game, and then they got out of it. And but establishing Vin in the post at the beginning of the game, I thought gave us life and confidence and got us off to a really good start.
Just to follow up really quickly, sorry, Michael, I keep cutting you off. Was that something when you went through the tape from the first Pitt game, you saw that, like, oh, there was a switch that we could have explored?
Yes, 100%, yes. And as I said before, when teams switch, it takes you out of your offense, and so you have to get into an offense where you can create, where you have an advantage. And we believed we had an advantage in regards to our perimeter players being able to create not only for themselves but for their teammates. But it's at its best when you can also throw the ball into the post, and we were able to do that.
Hubert, Vin had blood on his jersey after the game, and I asked him where it came from, and he said, I don't really know, but it was just that kind of game. So how could, playing and winning a physical game like this help prepare you for the short turnaround to Clemson on Monday night?
Well, we've been in a lot of these games, you know. I think it's the 10th
6-4 in one possession games.
one possession games, and so we've been there before. And, you know, in the huddle and on the court, I think one of the things that gives them confidence is that they've been in the situation before. Obviously, sometimes it hasn't gone our way, but there have been times that it has. And one of the things that I've told them, I said, you know, you guys have the answers to the test. We just got to write them down on the paper. And we knew what we needed to do in terms of getting stops, executing on the offensive end. It wasn't just Vin. Jay Wash was getting ready to check in. He didn't know he had blood on top of his eye, and so I had to tell him to go see Doug. And so that's a good game when you're bleeding. You have no idea how you got cut. I like those type of games.
On that note, Elliott said afterwards, with all the close games, you know exactly where you want the ball to go. You know exactly what type of defense you want to run.
Yeah.
He says that could probably help you in the ACC tournament and moving forward. In what ways do you think this team is comfortable late in games?
Well, I think our team is comfortable because we've had a ton of experience in those situations. I was really proud of them, specifically this game, because we made some defensive changes that I thought played a huge part for us down the stretch. We started doubling ball screens with Lowe, and so that kept them out of the middle. That disrupted their play. That was huge for us. Also late in the game, we switched every ball screen. And so we just had a man-on-man, and so we weren't in our regular ball screen coverage. And so we made those adjustments at the end, got them out of their rhythm, and I think that played a huge part in us being able to get some stops.
Hubert, what did it mean to you for RJ to have the game-winning bucket, but also be that steady hand, being really efficient?
Yeah, I like RJ out there.
Tweet it.
Let's see if we can get an extra year for RJ. You know, that'll be fun. But no, I just feel so comfortable out there with him. You know, we've been through a lot together, and his experience and his leadership as a coach makes me feel comfortable. When you have an extension of somebody out there on the floor that will do anything that he needs to do in order to help the team win. And you talked about getting stops, scoring, assists. I'm just really happy for him. And, you know, to come in the locker room and see everybody with smiles on their faces, but especially RJ, that puts a smile on my face.
Couple more.
You talked about how important it was to be aggressive, and that's kind of what he's focused on this last week. Can you talk about how pivotal his performance was tonight, specifically in regards to being aggressive?
Yeah, obviously he's one of the better players in the country. We need him to be aggressive. We need him. We need the ball in his hands. You know, teams have been playing him differently this year. They've been putting bigger guards on him and being physical with him. And so we've tried creative ways to be able to free him up, to be able to get shots. He's playing with probably his best confidence of the year lately. Just playing with a great pace about him and making, just really good reads and decisions. And he's playing at a high level.
Last three, make them quick. Rod, Andrew, Shelby.
Hubert, you touched on it a little bit with Drake's deflection at the top of the key, down on loose balls, forcing that extra possession with the out-of-bounds play.
Yeah.
Is hustle a skill? And if so, what makes it a skill?
I do think so. I think playing hard is a skill. I do. It makes the world of difference when you're playing with max energy, effort, enthusiasm, and a will and a want to. I 1,000% think that's a skill. And that's something, and I think it's a skill that needs to be brought every day because you're in control of that. And everybody makes mistakes. And I tell the guys all the time, I don't mind mistakes. I'll never get upset with mistakes if it's made with effort. Nobody's a perfect person. I'm not a perfect coach. I don't expect them to be perfect players. But I do expect them to give everything that they have, and I give them everything I have, and that's all you have control over. And so I do think it's a skill.
Andrew?
We talked to you just last week up in Pittsburgh about how they closed that game, and
Yeah.
you alluded to some other things during the game that lead to that point. But here, in the last 19 seconds, you guys missed 2 front ends of one-on-one,
Yeah.
but still managed to get the win. Is that a moment, like a layering experience for your team? You able to go through that, deal with that bit of adversity, and still find a way to win?
I do. I think our team throughout the entire year, one of the consistent things this team has been fight. You know, whether it's coming back from 18 or missing 2 front ends of a 1-and-1 and still understanding that we've got to lock in and we got to get a stop in order to win. And consistently in the huddles, whether it was a full timeout or a 30-second timeout, the guys kept saying this over and over again. We've been here before. We're not losing this game. We've been here before. We're not losing this game. And so, not that they hadn't said that before, but just hearing that consistently amongst a number of people, you just see the confidence in them that they could pull through and make the play that they needed in order to get the win.
Last one, Shelby.
Seth and RJ were telling me that your pre-game speech to the team was particularly impactful. It really resonated with them. Could you just share a little about what you're talking about in terms of choice to play for UNC to put on the jersey, that sort of message?
Yeah, you know, I always tell them that you really only have control of 2 things, how you react and how you respond. And I told them at practice yesterday, you know, how are you going to react and how are you going to respond at 4 o'clock the next day? And then I came in before the game and I said, you know what, guys, I told you those are the only 2 things that you have control over. And I said, I didn't tell you the full story. I said, I think in some situations you don't have a choice. And I said, when you decided to come here and you decided to be in this locker room and you put on that uniform and you run out of that tunnel and you play on that floor, you don't have a choice. You don't have a choice in terms of playing with the energy and effort on both ends of the floor. You don't have a choice. You have to box out. You don't have a choice in talking on defense. You don't have a choice of making the extra pass. You don't have a choice of attacking the offensive glass. You don't have a choice setting a solid and legal screen. You don't have a choice. You put on that uniform and your responsibility is to every day give everything that you have.
Thank you, Coach. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.